what is Nikon up to? Do you guys remember 2 to 3 years ago when Nikon was kind of like the laughing stock of the industry? I remember very, very vividly and clearly people just making fun of Nikon, calling it a potato. Of course, everybody knows about those memes and that song that one guy made. And you know what? To some point, to some degree, I would agree that at that time, 3 years ago, Nikon was definitely falling behind when it came to specs, when it came to like just autofocus, when it came to just performance compared to what was out already. When it came to photography, of course, Nikon was great. Most of these cameras will take great photos. But when it comes to video and just being a hybrid system, there are few cameras that are truly great hybrid cameras. And there are also few cameras that are, portable, small, mirrorless bodies that are very good video cameras. And for whatever reason, Nikon was just falling behind. Now, I remember when the Z6 first came out, I had that camera. And I remember that at the time, Nikon was trying to do something different. They tried to be innovative. And they actually allowed you to have ProRes RAW coming out of that camera into a Ninja V. And then, of course, Atomos, you had to update your Atomos to make this work. But I remember you had to send in your Nikon to kind of like enable this. So that was like the very first time where, you could start to see these little glimpses of Nikon trying to do something different. So then you fast forward and you have your Nikon Z6 Mark II, which really wasn't a dramatic upgrade. It was just kind of like a refresh, I would say. It's not like you're going from a like Sony A7S Mark II to a A7S Mark III. It was not a dramatic difference. Nikon was still looked at as just falling behind in the industry. And then they released the Nikon Z8. Not only did they make the best hybrid camera at the time, and arguably still one of the best hybrid cameras in 2024 and going into 2025, not only did they release that camera, they also bought Red. Red, the cinema camera company, the ones that make these awesome high quality cinema cameras. Yes, they bought Red. So to me, what the Nikon Z8 represented at the time when I just saw these specs and just saw what it was capable of doing was just a giant leap forward in technology. And also, they were putting pressure on a lot of these other manufacturers, like, Sony. Yes, Sony had the A1, but it was out of reach for most people. This is a $6,500 camera. And then here you have Nikon releasing the Z8. Well, first they released the Z9, which is a much bigger Z8, but the Z9 was introduced. The camera absolutely killed it. Then when they released the Z8, the camera was actually attainable to a lot more people than what the A1 Sony was. And by the way, it had more video features. It was a fast shooter. It's a 45 megapixel stacked sensor. So overall, just however you looked at it, it had, the NRAW, ProRes RAW. It had ProRes. It had 12-bit video. I mean, it just, the list goes on and on and on. And then, you look at the competition of what everybody is offering. You had the R5 and, with all the flaws that it had, like overheating, and then also just a bunch of IBIS wobble and a few other, issues that it had. And it also didn't have, any RAW capabilities in body. It just was not an ideal hybrid camera. You look at Sony. And then Sony, of course, they have the A1 for $6,500. And then it kind of splits off. You have your, FX3, which is video focused. And then you have your A7R Mark V, which is a photography-based camera. And then you also have your A7 Mark IV, which is not competing with a Z8 in any way. It's just not competing with a Z8. And then you look at, the other offerings, APS-C like an X-H2S, which is a very compelling camera. I own that camera. I love that camera. Very compelling. And when you look at it in the hybrid world, this is like one of the only few competitors to a Z8. Now, I know people are going to look at me and say, wow, it's a full frame sensor compared to a crop sensor. That's fine. That's okay. Once you step into the video realm, things become very different. They have been shooting, very large movies with APS-C sensors. So please, let's kill that argument, full frame versus APS-C. We're not going to talk about that, because this is, we can go on and on and on about that. The results, the image quality speaks for itself. And they, in my opinion, the Z8 and the XH2S are going to be very close and very similar in the image quality. Where there's a difference is in the Z8, you have more latitude to grade because you have 12-bit RAW. So going back to the Nikon Z8 just being this market disruptor, we are now at the end of 2024. I am seeing, more and more rumors coming out of these just insane cameras that are going to be released next year. Now, mind you, this year, the Z6 Mark III was released. That camera at $2,500 really is it's just kicking everybody's ass. It really, truly is. It's kicking everybody's ass. It is fully loaded, semi-stacked sensor. It has enough resolution to be a proper photography camera. It has a lot of video features, high second native ISO at 6400 ISO. That's absolutely incredible. It really is sweet spot. To me, that's more useful than a FX3 at 12,800, but that's a different topic. The only thing that camera is lacking is dynamic range. Dynamic range in the video, in the film industry, is a very, very big deal. I understand they had to make a lot of compromises to make this camera possible, and this is just unfortunately one of them. So this is why, for me personally, I prefer my XH2S. I have seen footage of the Z6 Mark III. The images look great, don't get me wrong. It's just not a camera for me. So needless to say, the competition is extremely stiff. 2025, Panasonic, Sony, Canon, Fujifilm, you guys better release something absolutely mind-blowing to beat Nikon. You guys, these other brands, if they don't innovate as fast as Nikon has, throwing everything into their cameras, they are truly going to fall behind. People are wanting hybrid mirrorless camera bodies that can do it all. Yes, okay, I totally understand, you have your cinema line, and then you have your, regular photography cameras. I totally get that. But there's a very high demand of content creators that want both. And Nikon is giving us both. I think that one of the few cameras that are going to be able to challenge the Z8, Z9, Z6 Mark III is going to be something from Panasonic. I truly, truly believe Panasonic is cooking up something incredible. And I just cannot wait to see it. I believe it's going to be the S1H Mark II with just incredible video features that we have never seen before. I hope I'm right, because a camera like that is just going to push the envelope higher. And overall, guys, this is great for everybody, because when we as filmmakers are able to have access to these high-end features at lower prices, guys, we all win. So that is it for me today. Just a quick, not a quick video about Nikon, but I felt like I needed to talk about it because I'm just seeing, still some people, talk about this potato thing. Guys, Nikon won. Just stop, please. They bought Red. They were one of the first cameras to introduce ProRes RAW into their small mirrorless bodies. They have their NRAW. They have all the video capabilities. Guys, Nikon won this year. So please, let's end that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.